Okay, so we saw how to do console input output. We've done that many times before. Next, we will take a look at how to do the same kind of thing, but with files. Okay, so we will use text files. We will read from a file. That is, we get input from a file into the program memory, and we will write to a file. So the program should send output from program memory to a file. So the way files work, we start at the beginning of the file, we read, or I guess we can write to, but we read from the beginning of the file all the way to the end if we have enough code in our program to actually read everything. We don't actually have to read all of the contents of an input file. Okay, so let's start with a simple example. We'll take this example that we started out with, prints out a couple of lines of characters, and then takes an input from the keyboard, puts it into a variable, and then we print it back out. And in this case, we're using strings. That's fine. So it says lecture 14, streams, please enter your name. You enter something, and what we did was we put in 2 strings, and we saw that only one of them was read. That's fine. This tells us that the space is a delimiter. And so if we wanted everything to go in, we would have somehow needed to omit that space or something. Okay, so this essentially worked. So now what we want to do is do the same kind of thing, except this very last thing, instead of printing it out to console, let's see what we need to do to have it go to a file. So the first thing you need to do is to create a file output stream. So how do you do that? You say of stream, and we'll call it like something like file out. So f out. Here we need the name of the file that it's gonna go into. So let's call it output.txt. It's a good name. Alright, now if you try to compile this, you'll get an error because you haven't said where this is coming from. Let's do that. We'll do a pound include fstream, and that should be good enough. There's a bunch of things, so ofstream should be in there, and we can add a using std ofstream. Alright, looks good. So we needed this pound include, we needed this using declaration, we needed this, and now I think we should be ready. Let's just compile. It won't work, but at least make sure we don't have any compile errors. Now we're ready to switch. But this is not enough, as you've probably seen in Java. When you write to a file, it's not enough just to put stuff out. Sometimes it won't work until you close it. So it's good. It's important to do this. fout.close. Alright, that'll make sure that any output that's sent to that file should get saved and written to the file when the file is closed. Compile it, and oops, what happened? Oh, we haven't saved it, so save it. Compile it, no problems, and now we can run it. Alright, so it's waiting for us to enter something, and that's good enough. Hit enter, and nothing happens here. We look here where the file should be, and there's nothing there. Of course, as with Java, we have to refresh. And when we refresh, we actually see the file output.txt exactly as we asked. And let's open it up. And it says, thank you, you entered this. Okay, perfect. So file output is pretty straightforward. Open up a file, put stuff in there, close the file, and we got the data. Now let's try something that's very similar, but getting the input from a file. So how do we do that? With the text file, you say using same kind of thing, but if stream. Okay. Now you have to open up the file for reading, so you say if stream fin for file in, and you can say we want to read from input.txt. Oops. There we go. And what we will say is we're going to read from, not from standard cin, but from fin. And we don't need this statement anymore. We're just going to read a single string from a file, and then whatever we read in, we'll print it out to a file. Okay, so now it's a good idea to close. For input files, that's not so crucial, but I think it's still a good idea to do this. Okay, so if we try to do this without having that file, chances are we'll get an error over here and then nothing will work. So when you try to open up a file input stream, and it just sort of dies. It doesn't really tell us that anything bad happened. If you look in output file, oh, it actually did get there. It said thank you, you entered this. Okay. So, and there are ways to check. There are methods that you can call for the fin or the if stream object to check if it's actually open, stuff like that. We're just going to use it in a very simple way. So what we should do is make a input file. So I'm going to say new and file, and I'm going to put it in that project.txt, and then input.text. I can say the same thing. Alright, I just want to put my name in there, save it. Okay, and then print, change this message to read from file. Alright, that should be better. Save it, compile it, it worked. And of course we don't need any input from the user anymore, because we're going to read something from a file, and hopefully we're going to read a single string, and it should be just one word. And then if you open this up, it says, sure enough, it says read from a file. Good. So that's the basics. That's all there is to it. You use ifstream to open up an input file, and remember in Eclipse, same thing is true in Java, is that when you say input.txt, it comes from the project. Whatever project you're in, you have your source code in. So even though your source code is in the src folder, those of you who use src folders, I like to do that. Even though your source code is here, it's executing sort of in this environment. That is, it's even though you can actually find the source code, right? I mean, the executable here, it has sort of, in Eclipse, there's this environment that is referenced from the project. So the project is where your file system starts, and your relative file system starts. So if you wanted to read it from the src file, you could just, all you have to do is this, src/input.text, right? And then you move this input.txt into src. That is, you move it to the right spot. And now, to check this, can delete the output file. So I don't know if this is readable, but all I did was create an input file in the src folder, which is where I usually create my CPP files. And so now that I've changed this, I'm going to save it, compile it, run it, and then do a refresh of my project, and there it is, output.txt, and it's working. Alright, so you might want to try this out. You can put your files anywhere as long as you reference it from the start of the project. So if you want to put something, if you want to put the output file into the source directory, you can certainly do that. All you have to do is change the string. So that's a quick look at file I/O using a very simple example of reading something in from a file, closing it, and then whatever you read from the file, from the input file, you putting some of it into an output file. Okay.